Today we explore a haunting tale of betrayal and murder in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. This story reveals how a once loving relationship unraveled, driven by hidden truths and deception, leading to a tragic conclusion. On the evening of June 29, 2019, in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, the warmth of the setting summer sun was fading, and long shadows stretched over the calm neighborhood. Around 8:30 p.m., Josh Parker, a 33-year-old software engineer, placed a desperate call to the Old Saybrook Police Department. He had just discovered his wife, Vanessa Parker, dead in their master bedroom. Josh had been out running errands that evening, first stopping at the grocery store to pick up some items and then grabbing a coffee at Starbucks. Upon returning home, Josh noticed an unsettling silence in the house. Calling out for Vanessa with no reply, he grew worried. He went upstairs to their bedroom, where he was met with a horrifying sight. Vanessa, a 32-year-old event planner, was found on the floor with her wedding veil tightly wrapped around her neck. The room was in disarray, with overturned furniture and scattered personal items indicating a violent struggle. Josh quickly called 911, his voice shaking as he relayed the grim details. When the dispatcher instructed Josh to check for a pulse, he did so but found none. Overwhelmed by shock and despair, he sat on the floor next to Vanessa, waiting for the police to arrive. His hands shook, and his face was pale, clearly showing his distress. Despite the trauma, Josh remained on the line with the dispatcher, answering questions and providing detailed information. Within minutes, Old Saybrook police arrived, securing the scene and beginning their investigation. Neighbors gathered outside, their expressions a blend of shock and curiosity. The normally peaceful neighborhood was abuzz with activity as news of the incident spread. Local media, including the Hartford Courant and Channel 3 Eyewitness News, arrived to cover the police activity and interview residents, who voiced their disbelief over the tragedy. The discovery of Vanessa Parker's body initiated a complex investigation that would reveal startling secrets and culminate in a tragic outcome. Throughout the night, the police worked tirelessly to collect evidence and reconstruct the events leading to Vanessa's untimely death. She was 32 years old at the time. Vanessa was an event planner in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, recognized for her demanding and perfectionist tendencies. Friends and family had affectionately dubbed her Bridezilla in the months leading up to her wedding. She lived with her husband, Josh Parker, in a charming house on Main Street. They had recently invested $100,000 in their opulent wedding, held at the historic Saybrook Point Inn, a renowned venue for extravagant events. Vanessa, known for her ambition and meticulous nature, quickly established herself as a prominent figure in the event planning industry. She became the preferred choice for organizing upscale weddings and corporate events in the area. Her clients ranged from high-profile companies to affluent families, all of whom admired her dedication and meticulous attention to detail. Despite her demanding nature, Vanessa maintained a close circle of friends who respected her ambition. Her best friend, Jessica Moore, was a constant and supportive presence in her life. Jessica, a marketing manager, had been Vanessa's confidant since their college days. They frequently met at Ashlawn Farm Coffee, their local cafe, to discuss work and life over their favorite drinks. In the days before her death, Vanessa was preoccupied with finalizing details for an upcoming corporate event. Vanessa had devoted hours to perfecting seating arrangements and floral designs, driven by her desire for everything to be flawless. Despite the stress, she had ambitious plans for the future, including expanding her business and potentially opening a second office in New York City. Vanessa envisioned herself as a leading figure in the event planning industry, admired for her creativity and professionalism. While her life appeared perfect on the surface, she bore a burden of secrets. Her demanding nature and high standards frequently strained her relationships. The discovery of Vanessa's body marked the tragic end of a life rich with ambition and dreams, leaving her family and friends in deep shock and grief. The Old Saybrook police arrived at the Parker residence shortly after Josh's urgent 911 call on June 29, 2019. The investigation was led by Detective Sarah Collins, a seasoned investigator with 15 years of experience. Detective Collins, recognized for her thorough and methodical approach, swiftly took charge of the scene. Upon entering the master bedroom, the officers encountered a chaotic and unsettling scene. The room was in disarray, with overturned furniture and personal items scattered across the floor. Vanessa Parker's body was found on the floor with her wedding veil tightly wrapped around her neck, indicating a violent struggle. Detective Collins observed broken glass, likely from a shattered lamp, and bloodstains on the carpet, which added to the disturbing scene. The initial assessment suggested a crime of passion. Vanessa's death appeared to be the result of strangulation, a brutal and personal method of murder. The use of her own wedding veil as the weapon added a chilling element, pointing to a profound emotional connection between the victim and the perpetrator. Detective Collins and her team commenced a thorough investigation, documenting the scene with photographs and sketches to capture every detail. They collected fingerprints from various surfaces, aiming to find matches that could identify the perpetrator. Fibers and hair samples were collected as additional forensic evidence to potentially link the suspect to the crime scene. Luminol was used to reveal any concealed bloodstains, highlighting areas that had been cleaned in an effort to obscure evidence. Advanced tools, such as 3D scanners, created a detailed digital model of the room, enabling a thorough analysis of the positions and movements during the struggle. Detective Collins spoke with Josh Parker, who appeared nervous but willing to cooperate. Josh explained that he was out running errands earlier that evening. Although he seemed calm, the detectives remained cautious, knowing that spouses are frequently considered primary suspects in these situations. Neighbors were questioned as officers canvassed the area to collect information about any unusual or suspicious activities. The community was in shock, and the media, including the Hartford Courant and Channel 3 Eyewitness News, heightened the pressure on the police with their coverage of the tragic event. As the investigation continued, Detective Collins and her team stayed focused and determined, understanding that solving Vanessa Parker's murder depended on carefully examining all the evidence and uncovering the hidden truths behind her death. Josh Parker, Vanessa's husband, was the initial focus of the police investigation. At 33 years old, Josh worked as a software engineer. His calm and composed demeanor contrasted with Vanessa's more demanding personality. The strain of their extravagant $100,000 wedding had affected Josh. Friends noted that he had seemed increasingly stressed as he struggled to meet Vanessa's high expectations and manage the financial pressure. The police brought Josh in for questioning on June 30, 2019, the day after Vanessa's body was discovered. Detective Sarah Collins conducted the interrogation. Josh looked exhausted and upset, with red eyes from lack of sleep. Even though he was tired, he stayed cooperative. He described his activities on the evening of June, mentioning that he had been running errands, including visits to Stop Shop and Starbucks, before going home to see Vanessa. Detective Collins observed that Josh's hands were slightly shaking, indicating his nervousness. He described his relationship with Vanessa as affectionate but acknowledged that her demanding nature had been tough to handle. He spoke about the stress of organizing their costly wedding and the financial arguments they had. Although Josh generally stayed calm, there were times when his voice faltered, showing how deeply affected he was. The police questioned Josh about his location during the estimated time of Vanessa's death. He gave a thorough account of his activities, including receipts from the grocery store and coffee shop to back up his alibi. Even though he was cooperative, Detective Collins and her team understood the importance of verifying every detail. They collected Josh's fingerprints and took a DNA sample to compare with the evidence from the crime scene. Friends and family described him as patient and understanding, noting his supportive nature and how he frequently went out of his way to assist Vanessa with her event planning business. However, the financial strain of their wedding and Vanessa's high expectations had pushed him to his limits. Detective Collins kept probing for any inconsistencies in Josh's account. They asked him about recent arguments or conflicts with Vanessa, and he admitted that they had fought over money and wedding expenses. Despite the tension, he maintained that he would never hurt Vanessa. As the investigation continued, the police monitored Josh closely. While his cooperative attitude and detailed alibi were important, Detective Collins understood that finding the truth required thorough and careful investigation. They had to follow every lead to ensure no crucial evidence was missed. The police then turned their attention to Jessica Moore, Vanessa's best friend and maid of honor. At 31 years old, Jessica worked as a marketing manager. Known for her cheerful and supportive demeanor, Jessica had been a loyal friend to Vanessa, despite Vanessa's demanding nature. They had been inseparable since their college days at the University of Connecticut, where they both studied business. On June 30, 2019, Detective Sarah Collins and her team brought Jessica in for questioning. Jessica looked visibly shaken, with red eyes from crying. She described her relationship with Vanessa as very close and supportive. They frequently met at Ashlawn Farm Coffee to catch up and talk about their lives. Jessica recounted the days leading up to Vanessa's death, noting that they had been occupied with last-minute wedding preparations. During the interrogation, a startling revelation emerged. Jessica was not only Vanessa's friend, but also her lover and secret wife. The two had been married for 3 years, keeping their marriage a secret from everyone, including Josh. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the investigation. Jessica confessed that she and Vanessa had been planning to blackmail Josh with compromising photos Vanessa had taken, intending to defraud him. Detective Collins observed Jessica's nervousness as she spoke. Her voice wavered, and she fidgeted with her hands. Despite her anxiety, Jessica maintained that she had no involvement in Vanessa's murder. Jessica explained that their blackmail scheme was intended to ensure financial stability for both of them, not to cause harm. Her emotional distress was clear, but she consistently claimed her innocence during the questioning. The police then asked her about her whereabouts on the night of Vanessa's death. Jessica provided an alibi, stating that she had been at home working on a marketing campaign for her company. She detailed specific aspects of the campaign, including emails and files she had worked on, which the police later verified. They also collected her fingerprints and DNA samples to compare with the evidence from the crime scene. Friends and colleagues described Jessica as hardworking and dedicated, with a positive attitude that made her well-liked at work. However, the revelation of her secret relationship with Vanessa and their blackmail scheme cast a shadow over her character. As the investigation progressed, Detective Collins and her team stayed focused on uncovering the truth. While Jessica's emotional state and detailed alibi were significant, the detectives understood they needed to thoroughly investigate all aspects of her relationship with Vanessa and their secret plans. On July 2, 2019, 3 days after Vanessa Parker's death, a breakthrough in the case emerged. On a humid afternoon in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, with temperatures reaching the high 80s, Detective Sarah Collins received a call from a resident. He reported finding something suspicious while walking his dog in Saybrook Point Park. His golden retriever, Buddy Rogers Jr., had started barking at a bush near the water's edge. Curious, he approached and found a smartphone partially concealed under the foliage. Recognizing its potential importance, he promptly contacted the police. Detective Collins and her team arrived at the scene swiftly. The phone was carefully collected and sent to the forensics lab for analysis. Within hours, technicians were able to unlock the device and retrieve its data. What they discovered would significantly alter the direction of the investigation. The phone belonged to Vanessa Parker. Among the texts, photos, and emails, investigators discovered a series of incriminating messages between Vanessa and her secret wife, Jessica Moore. The messages outlined their blackmail scheme against Josh Parker, including explicit instructions on how to carry out their plan after the wedding. The phone also contained compromising photos of Josh, intended to be used for blackmail. Detective Collins reviewed the new evidence with a mix of relief and determination. The messages detailed the extent of Vanessa and Jessica's scheme, offering a clearer motive for the crime. The team also uncovered a series of heated messages between Vanessa and an unknown number, which was later identified as belonging to Michael Reynolds, Vanessa's other spouse from San Diego. The text revealed Michael's anger over Vanessa's threats to release a sex tape involving him and his mother, adding another layer of complexity to the web of relationships and motives. With this new evidence, the police concentrated on tracking the movements of Jessica and Michael around the time of the murder. They reviewed surveillance footage from nearby stores and traffic cameras to establish Jessica and Michael's whereabouts. The forensic team also compared the fingerprints and DNA from the phone with those collected at the crime scene. The discovery of Vanessa's phone marked a significant breakthrough in the investigation. It offered crucial insights into the motives and actions of the key suspects. Detective Collins and her team felt a renewed sense of urgency and determination to resolve the case. They knew they were nearing the truth behind Vanessa Parker's tragic death. Michael Reynolds, Vanessa's other spouse, was the third person the police investigated. At 40 years old, he worked as a construction manager in San Diego and was known for his hot-headed nature and a tumultuous history with Vanessa. Despite having moved on, Michael occasionally had run-ins with Vanessa, fueling speculation about lingering feelings and unresolved issues. On July 3, 2019, Detective Sarah Collins and her team brought Michael in for questioning. He had flown in from San Diego upon hearing about Vanessa's death. He appeared agitated and defensive during the interrogation, with his frustration evident in his clenched fists and terse responses. He described his relationship with Vanessa as volatile, characterized by frequent arguments and dramatic reconciliations. Michael revealed that Vanessa had been blackmailing him, threatening to release a sex tape involving him and his mother. This revelation portrayed Vanessa as manipulative and ruthless, willing to go to great lengths to control those around her. Michael admitted that he was furious with Vanessa but maintained that he would never harm her. The police then inquired about his whereabouts on the night of Vanessa's death. Michael claimed he was in San Diego, working late on a construction project. He provided contact details for his co-workers, who confirmed his alibi. He also presented flight records showing that he had arrived in Connecticut only after learning about the murder. Detective Collins observed Michael's volatility during the questioning. He frequently raised his voice and appeared close to losing his temper. Despite his anger, Michael consistently denied any involvement in Vanessa's death. He expressed relief at being free from Vanessa's manipulations, though he also felt regret over how their relationship had ended. Friends and colleagues described Michael as hardworking but prone to anger. While his temper was well known in professional circles, he was also respected for his dedication to his work. The revelation of his turbulent relationship with Vanessa and the blackmail added complexity to his character. The police collected Michael's fingerprints and DNA samples for comparison with the evidence from the crime scene. They also reviewed his phone records and text messages, searching for any communication with Vanessa leading up to her death. As the investigation progressed, Detective Collins and her team stayed vigilant, knowing that the truth was often concealed beneath layers of lies and deception. Michael's volatile nature and detailed alibi were important, but the detectives understood the need to dig deeper to uncover the full story behind Vanessa Parker's tragic death. On July 5, 2019, Detective Sarah Collins and her team finally identified the murderer. Josh Parker, Vanessa's husband, was revealed to be the one who strangled her with her wedding veil. This breakthrough came after the police carefully analyzed the evidence found on Vanessa's phone and at the crime scene. Josh Parker, 33, had always appeared to be the perfect husband. He was a calm and composed software engineer, admired for his patience and supportive nature. However, beneath this calm exterior, Josh was grappling with the immense pressure of Vanessa's demanding personality and the financial strain of their $100,000 wedding. The discovery of Vanessa's secrets pushed him over the edge. The night before Vanessa's murder, Josh discovered incriminating messages and photos on her phone, revealing her secret marriages to Jessica Moore and Michael Reynolds, as well as their blackmail schemes. This shocking betrayal led to a heated argument between Josh and Vanessa, which escalated into a physical struggle. Detective Collins pieced together the events leading up to the murder. Vanessa was strangled with her veil in the master bedroom, suggesting a crime of passion. The disarray in the room and signs of a struggle pointed to Josh as the perpetrator. The police matched Josh's DNA and fingerprints with those found at the crime scene, confirming his involvement. On the evening of July 5, 2019, Detective Collins and her team went to arrest Josh Parker. They found him at the couple's home on Main Street, sitting in the living room, seemingly lost in thought. The officers approached him carefully, explaining the charges and reading him his rights. Josh did not resist. Instead, he appeared resigned, with an expression that conveyed both sorrow and relief. As the handcuffs were placed on Josh, he glanced around the room one last time. He wasn't surprised by his arrest. He had known it was inevitable. The Parker family's reactions were a blend of shock and sorrow. Vanessa's parents, Robert and Linda Parker, were heartbroken, grappling with the tragedy that had unfolded. Vanessa's sister, Emily, was deeply distraught, mourning both the loss of her sister and the disintegration of their family. Josh Parker's arrest provided some closure to the investigation but left a path of heartbreak behind. The Parker family and their friends struggled to come to terms with Vanessa's death and the betrayal that occurred within their own home. The Old Saybrook community was left reeling, trying to understand the tragic events that had upended their sense of security. The trial of Josh Parker began on October 15, 2022, at the Middlesex Superior Court in Middletown, Connecticut. The courtroom was crowded with media, including reporters from the Hartford Courant and Channel 3 Eyewitness News. The case drew significant attention because of the shocking nature of the crime and the revelations about Vanessa Parker's hidden secrets. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney Lisa Brown Henley, a 45-year-old renowned for her tenacity and sharp legal mind. Brown Henley argued that Josh Parker had premeditated the murder after uncovering Vanessa's secret marriages and blackmail schemes. She presented evidence from Vanessa's phone, including incriminating messages and photos, as well as forensic evidence linking Josh to the crime scene. Brown Henley portrayed Josh as a man driven to the edge by betrayal and financial strain, leading to a violent outburst of rage. In contrast, defense attorney Brian Stevens, a 50-year-old known for his persuasive arguments and empathetic approach, argued that Josh had acted out of temporary insanity. Stevens claimed that the revelation of Vanessa's double life and deceit had caused Josh to lose control. Stevens depicted Josh as a loving husband pushed to his breaking point by intense stress and emotional turmoil. The trial lasted 3 weeks and featured emotional testimonies from family members and friends. Vanessa's parents, Robert and Linda Parker, attended each day, their faces marked by deep grief. Vanessa's sister, Emily, frequently broke down in tears, struggling to handle the loss and the betrayal by her brother-in-law. The courtroom atmosphere was charged with tension as both the prosecution and defense presented compelling arguments. On November 19, 2022, the jury delivered their verdict. Josh Parker was found guilty of second-degree murder. Reactions to the verdict were mixed. Vanessa's family felt a sense of relief that justice had been served, but the pain of their loss continued to weigh heavily on them. Some community members felt the sentence was too lenient, considering the premeditated nature of the crime. Judge Karen Miller sentenced Josh Parker to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. In her remarks, she recognized the emotional and psychological strain Josh had endured but underscored that taking a life remained an unforgivable act. Josh showed little reaction as the sentence was read, his expression one of resignation. The verdict and sentencing had a profound impact on everyone involved. Vanessa's family and friends continued to struggle with their grief, finding some measure of solace in the justice served. The trial's outcome was viewed as a step toward healing, although the scars from Vanessa's death and the trial would persist for years. After the trial, the lives of everyone involved were irrevocably altered. Josh Parker began serving his 25-year sentence at the MacDougall Walker Correctional Institution in Suffield, Connecticut. The facility, known for its high security, became Josh's new home as he adjusted to life behind bars. Local news outlets, including the Hartford Courant, reported on his transition, highlighting his efforts to come to terms with his actions and the reality of his long sentence. Meanwhile, Josh's family grappled with the fallout from the trial and its aftermath. His parents, who had supported him throughout the trial, found it challenging to visit him. They faced the dual burden of coping with their son's incarceration and enduring public scrutiny. Occasionally speaking with reporters, they expressed their deep sorrow over the tragedy and their hope for Josh's eventual redemption. Vanessa Parker's family worked to rebuild their lives after the trial. Vanessa's parents, Robert and Linda Parker, remained in Old Saybrook and were actively involved in local memorial activities to honor her memory. They established a scholarship fund in her name at the University of Connecticut to support students pursuing careers in event planning. The scholarship was highlighted by local media as a means to keep Vanessa's legacy alive and make a positive impact on the community. Jessica Moore, initially a key suspect, faced her own set of challenges. Although she was not charged with any crime, the exposure of her secret marriage to Vanessa and their blackmail scheme severely damaged her professional reputation. Jessica left her job as a marketing manager and relocated to a different state to start fresh, distancing herself from the scandal. She kept a low profile, with minimal public appearances reported. Michael Reynolds, Vanessa's other spouse, also sought to move forward with his life. He continued his work in San Diego but dealt with ongoing media attention due to his involvement in the case. Michael occasionally spoke about how Vanessa's blackmail had affected his life, expressing hope for personal healing and closure. Overall, the aftermath of Vanessa Parker's murder and Josh Parker's trial left deep emotional scars on everyone involved. The community of Old Saybrook gradually began to heal, with residents uniting to support each other and honor Vanessa's memory. The tragic events left a lasting impact, shaping the lives of everyone involved for years to come. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Truthful Crime. The story of Vanessa Parker serves as a poignant reminder of how secrets and deception can lead to tragic outcomes. Join us next time as we delve into more tales of crime and intrigue. Until then, stay safe.